Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tabelo. It's a pleasure to be here. Good afternoon, good morning, depending where you are. So today I gave myself the job to talk about play, curiosity, and connection. So I will weave a bit of my story there, but will be as we develop these ideas. It's um, it's interesting when you talk about purpose. There's a lot of talk around purpose out there, and it's something that I don't think we need to find because it's necessarily being lost somewhere. But sometimes it gets hidden. All the clutter of life, all things happening around us, all the business. And sometimes we get to a point we don't remember anymore, we don't know anymore, we're not in touch with it anymore. And in a way, it is so important to connect with our purpose. It relates to our identity. It relates to what drives us, what motivates us. And and in a way, while in the earlier stages of our life, we tend to do a lot of things for other people. We do our degrees or we study to please our parents, our grandparents, and so on. We accumulate things because it's the right thing to do. We achieve things because it's the right thing to do. And it gets to a certain point that actually that call to look at our purpose becomes impossible to resist. And it's usually around midlife that we realize we need to go back and reconnect with it and really experience life in its full glory, what it's all about. So, as Tabila said, I am a psychologist, I am an academic, I'm a social and behavioral scientist. And in the past 20 years, I've been researching midlife transitions and the impact on our work, our health, and our well being. And when I started, it seemed really odd because I was in my early 20s and there I was running retirement groups and reflection groups. And at the time, my intern was a 50-year-old man because he was transitioning career. He was leaving a big corporation. He was studying psychology to become a psychotherapist and used to confuse people because this was this young girl. Well, I was a girl at the time. I like to think now. And this intern, age 50, and a man. So it caused a lot of confusion. But it goes to show that this idea that we always had, talking now about my friend, that we study, we work, and we retire is no longer valid. Well, what's that all about? This linear progression that somewhat, somehow, we get sold. It's very different to actually what happens to us. Our life trajectories are much more circular than linear. And if any of you here or watching us being a linear path so far, I would say maybe it's time to start adding some curves and roundabouts to where you're going. And to be honest, the roundabouts won't take you back to the same place. Believe me, once you go through the roundabout, you find a different destination and you find yourself in a completely different scenario because we're never the same again, regardless of how much you try to keep some consistency. So changing is a great part of that process and is impossible to stop. But one of the things that it tends to inevitably change is where our priorities lie. And I quite like the idea of inside out and outside in. And I always like this idea to play with different parts of life, different stages of life, different missions we have at these different stages. And how when we are developing our first stretch of our career, we do quite a lot of things because people say we're good at. They say, oh, you're good at that. And you go and do a bit more because it's quite nice to be praised. And then you carry on developing, investing on that. And at some point, you might realize that it may be, if you're lucky, that's something that you really like to do and you enjoy, and that's true to yourself. or maybe something that you're simply good at, but actually you could do if not doing that anymore. It's not something that resonates with you or that means anything. And at this point, it starts to become really evident that what we do needs to be important from the core, from inside out, from what we have to offer. And that inside out thing, which can be whatever, an interesting, a passion, a talent, it's something that usually we overlook. Not only we overlook, we don't value because it's easy for us and we like it. So how can this be something I can make into a business? How is this something other people want? But this tends to be stable in us. And if we haven't connected with this thing, this special thing we have that we should channel in our work, it's very important to start thinking about finding it. It will manifest itself differently throughout life, but it will be something that would always have been there throughout.
Yeah.
And in a way, we can't get to find this inside out thing without living a bit. I always say in my talks, I say to my undergraduate students, look, you guys, don't be in a hurry to have the final decision about your careers, right? Because you need to live a bit and you need to experiment things to know if you like it or not. And in a way, that's part of the adult development. We need to grow up. We need to learn to be adults. We need to learn to become a socialized mind, that we live with the society and we comply and we, go in agreement with the expectations. And then once we are comfortable, once we feel confident and strong, then we can go about to develop what we really are. And that, again, can only happen with time. So the researchers call that the self-authoring mind. It's the mind that we start designing our own destiny because we know enough about what's out there. We know enough about what we are all about, and then we can start channel it to change our life, our existence, our perspectives around the world. And once we start that, it's inevitable that we start shaping that world as well. Not only we shape our lives, but we shape what's happening around us. And it's a normal process of being an adult. Um, at early stages of psychology, used to think that only children develop. Once the adolescent become an adult, that is finished. And actually, neuroscience and all branches of psychology and science comes to show that that process of development don't stop. And it's not about decline and decay. Actually, there's a lot of growth and expansion that happens in this process. And that is not publicized enough, but the learning never stops. In fact, we go through life through a process of learning, mastering, and moving on. It is said that every 5 to 7 years, and I'm sure there's variation, it's very individual, we would go through a learning cycle. So maybe that learning cycle is connected to our purpose and to that special talent we have. Maybe it's part of that search. But inevitably, we're going through the process of we identify something, we explore, we resource ourselves, we learn. We get into that comfortable place of mastering something when we know what we're doing and it's nice and it's comfortable. And then maybe even passing on to others, training someone else to be good at it as well. And it gets to a point that we just feel the need to move on. We feel the need to go and find something else and re-engage with this process. And that's being alive. That's what it's all about, is to get into this process of stopping and starting, growing and moving on. And it gets even more fun when we add purpose to it, when that process of learning actually is connected to something bigger that we are after in our lives. So when we add that to the mix, that learning becomes really much more interesting. But I just touched on the word fun, and fun is a big part of that. But what's interesting is when we get to that purpose, it is fun, it is challenging, it's puzzling, rewarding, but it's actually life. And to get to that purpose, I would say in, again, the very past, would say, let's go into an introspection. Let's stop, think, reflect, go over our values. But that's no longer the case. That's just the way to go about it. I think introspection is still very important. It still helps. But it's through play, curiosity, and action that we really connect with that purpose. And why do I say that? Why play? Well, play opens our cognition. When we're playing, it's like a child. When we're playing, we are free. We are able to be creative, to engage with ideas without the concern of having to achieve something or prove something to anyone. When we play without an objective, it feels like we can surprise ourselves. It's getting the Lego bricks and suddenly you build yourself a castle, but you didn't notice because it was fun and was nice and it felt good. You are not forced to come up with the castle. It emerged through play. So play allows us to find things we never thought because we are relaxed and we are able to see. And very connected with that is curiosity. Curiosity is a big buzzword in personal development. Everyone talk about being curious. But curiosity as play helps you to explore ideas that you wouldn't otherwise, that your adult self, socialite self would say, no, that's just completely bonkers idea. Now, when you're curious, say, okay, yes, I can go there. I can open that door. I can actually explore. I can engage in generative thinking, that I can come up with something new. And curiosity is the fuel to get to something different, something that you haven't expected again. So the third thing in the title of my talk was connection. So why connection? Where connection comes into the equation? And I think that's pretty much why we're here today. It's all about the connection. And it's not because there's power in numbers. Of course, there are power in numbers. The more of us that talks about this stage of life and all the amazing things that can be achieved, the better it is. We open the minds of other people, but it's not exactly about that. That connection goes to help. We are social animals, and we can even be the most independent thinkers, but we're still social animals. We need the human connection. Actually, I would say we need more than ever before. We come in this post super consumerist existence to getting to something that's a bit more collectively focused and connected. And this human connection only happens through our relationships and through conversations. And it's a great way to actually consolidate, being the playground, the village square of that play, curiosity, and exploration. So through the relational aspects, through meeting people, we can actually be much more daring in our curiosity, much more daring in our play, because we have other people's lenses we can borrow to see things that we can't see from the perspective we are. And we actually are supported as well. Is what Paul was saying, is having someone to say, don't go there, go here, or let me try and help you with something. So connections is at the heart of really good play and exploration. And good play and exploration is really at the heart of good ideas. So connection is a safe space that supports all this process of redirection. So connecting with others, it is pretty much connecting with ourselves. The two things go hand in hand. And as a global citizen, which I like to say, as Ingon said, I'm Brazilian, Swiss, in England, after living in the Middle East, and you name it. I belong to many places. I belong to many communities that really help me to see my purpose. And I belong to online communities too. I belong to this community, and I'm not over 50, but I do belong because I care. So I'll invite you all to belong, to connect, and to play with us. Thank you.